Well done. 50 minutes and 15 seconds. We got, big news today from the cottage front steps.
We'll talk about that in just a moment. There's a few notable international stories we should go through because we get that off our checklist. But I guess number one I want to bring up is there was a statement by the U.S. Treasury Department that came out this past week.
Okay.
And they said there would be a disbursement of $3.4 billion that's going to be direct funding, direct budget support for Ukraine. I'm not sure if you saw this.
That's
3.4.
great.
This is $3.4 billion in assistance. And this is very interesting, Joy, because most of the funds are going to be used to keep the Ukraine government running paying salaries to teachers and other state employees. $3.4 billion. I took a look to see how big is the Ukraine budget, and their anticipated revenue for this year, 2024, is $43 billion. And their expenses,
about 10%, little less than 10% of it from
just of their intake, but of their expenses, it's $82 billion. So if you look at the expenses, it's 4% of the overall budget, just from this one disbursement.
People in the chat are as flabbergasted as I am about the priority of these stories, by the way. Going overseas to Ukraine first.
No, because I just wanted to, I understand, because I just wanted to point out there's something here. The funding, direct funding of a foreign government.
Oh, but they're not involved in the war, Len. They're not. It's not.
Not directly. And paying a significant amount. It's measurable in terms of, if you look at the expenses or in terms of income, it's measurable in either of the two. That, and you look at it at the same time, infrastructure in the United States crumbling. It continually gets older. Try driving, try flying, try doing whatever in comparison to, say, in other countries like China. There's no high-speed trains that you have. There's no mass subway systems that they've built in the past decade in the United States. Everything is old. People are shooting up drugs, dying. They're not getting health care, jobless, so much bullshit. And they're paying a foreign government directly to keep them afloat. Where are the priorities? I think that this is just the wrong place to put your money.
It's money laundering. It's money.
I don't want to. Maybe, but I just look at this. That $3.4 billion. If I was a U.S. citizen, I'd be irate.
They're funding trips for Vladimir to go on Lex Friedman. Like what? What? Someone help me understand this.
And then they asked him.
Yeah,
the Z-Man.
Yeah,
if he were to go out for a
dinner,
who was going to be paying for that?
Z-Man asked. He's like, Lex said, we got to go to dinner with my friend Joe Rogan and you in Texas. And Z-Man's like, who's paying? And he's like, Putin needs to pay. No, you fucking moron. The American taxpayer already paid to the tune of $1 trillion fucking dollars in cash and equipment. What a fucking idiot that guy is. I am so tired of this guy showing up in fatigues to media events. A guy whose country is so war-torn that he needs another $10 billion every 2 weeks going on American podcasts in America. What is that? What is that?
And you could easily do this, like we're doing this.
Zoom.
Right. Not to say that he should be doing podcasts, but if you are going to be doing, I just did one this past weekend with a dude from Norway.
Yeah.
You don't have to hop on your jet.
No, you do not.
Right? The priorities.
I cannot stand this guy. Honest to God. I'm so tired of him.
It's the money that goes when you see there's other things that are dearly needed to be spent on. When people are dying on the streets because they don't have access to food, healthcare, jobs, and then this money is going over there to pay salaries for government employees and teachers. Granted, they have to get paid too, but where does the money come from? Who generated that income, and what gives them the right to spend it over there?
Yeah,
I just look at this. It's like
nothing. Fuck. There's no right to any of this, man. And people will say, there's been a guy in my comments last little while. Anytime I mention Russia, that like I'm giving Russian talking points. Like I don't watch Russian media. I just think that funding a war overseas when you tried to, bring basically a NATO installation to a foreign country's doorstep and blaming it on the other country. Like it's not a winning argument. I think that spending a ton of money, like you're saying, when you have so many deficiencies right on your doorstep, is a losing move. I think that this idea that we have to dabble in hypotheticals. Well, if we don't fight Russia now, Russia will continue into Europe. Like, I doubt it, honestly. But if he does, what's Europe doing? Does any European country have a military? Does any European country have a couple of billion? Does any European country have Tomahawk missiles and ground troops and drone fight? Like, do they have nothing? They're not doing anything. Is everyone just relying on the United States? Like, what are we talking about here? We can't do this all the time. The United States can't do this all the time. It's not feasible at scale. Like this it doesn't work. And so at some point you have to just say like, yeah, these guys, they made a mistake. This was a mistake by the war hawk neocons, who, by the way, would never send their own kids to the meat grinder, but will send yours in a heartbeat along with your billions. So
all right, so we got that out of the way. I really had to get that in my system because it just rubbed me the wrong way. And we could talk about obviously the thing, the news of the day, news of the week, news of the month, news of the year. Who knows? With Trudeau finally stepping down, he's not leaving just yet, right? Like he's going to be sticking around at least for a period of time before the Liberals somehow elect a new leader. So he's here for the time being. There's going to be no election until at least no election that's going to be called until at least end of March, but it could go to October. NDP is still kind of they are financially constrained. They don't have the ability to fund a general election, so they may want to continue to keep this government or the next government, next Liberal leader, just going, right? Just try to. And that gives them more time to get some funding, and it gives them an opportunity to showcase that they're an alternative to the Liberal Party. So it's possible that you could see this run all the way till October. I'm not saying it will happen, but just
June or July may be more likely. But
a summer election, I'm not sure, because if the House goes in recess in June, right. So it's possible you could have it and have it June.
Other thing is that I think, are you going to run a federal election on the back of an Ontario election? Ontario probably going to have an election around that time as well. So
that's a good point. So you have them done concurrently, and typically you don't want to have that. And so who's going to blink first? Because it looks like Ontario is going to call one first, and we'll
as soon as I get my $250 check, they'll call an election.
Is it 200? Yeah, there's some money coming in. That's coming.
Yeah.
They're going to, every resident of Ontario, even children, I think, get it too.
Perfect.
It was just great. So, and you're lucky because I think they had to have been born in 20. They had to be alive last year, so I think
perfect.
They might be okay.
I happen to have one that meets that criteria.
Yeah. So it's that. But I don't want to talk about the Ontario thing just yet. The Liberal situation, Trudeau miscalculated here. The best time, and I mentioned it many times, the best time for him to have left was right after the separation between he and his wife. He could have left at that time, and he should have left at that time. In my opinion, hindsight is now 2020. And he could have used the excuse, I want to spend time with my family, try to reconcile things. And you could then say, that's a noble cause and getting away from public life. And then, he wouldn't leave the Liberal Party in the same state it is right now. They have mere months to figure out who's going to be the leader for the next election. If it's indeed in October, if it's sooner than that, they have less time than that to figure out who's going to be next leader. Mark Carney, who has that website, Carney for Canada or something, .ca. I don't know what the website is. But either way, Mark Carney, I have serious doubts he's going to be the leader of the Liberal Party. And my rationale is, if he becomes the leader of the Liberal Party, he's then the prime minister without being sitting in the House of Commons. They would have to immediately call an election, because if they do not, how could you have how could you have a prime minister that does not have a seat? I think this happened in Canadian history before. Arthur Meighen, I think, was the last prime minister that was in that situation. I could be wrong. So it's not a good situation to be in, though. And then he'd have to rely on his MPs to basically pick up the pieces.
Good luck. How many are left? Yeah,
are going to be left to support him too. And then So then, if my theory is correct, if Mark Carney's not going to be the person, who is? Then it's going to be one of the 150 MPs that currently are elected, and you can break that down even further. 140 probably don't even want to try. 10 maybe, but have no hope, and heck, maybe 15. So it just leaves the names that I come off the top of my head: Jolie, Freeland, Anand, Gould, Miller, LeBlanc.
That's it.
That's all I could think of. There could be more. That's a small number of people then that you're going to be, and then a lot of them.
What about Fergus? What's his status? That guy, can he run?
I never thought about that. He'd have to step down as.
Well, he's not going to be the Speaker of the House anyway, so why not just try? Maybe the Liberals put him up there. I don't think people like that guy, but the other thing. Okay, so like the math is one thing. I've heard a couple of good sources say that basically Liberals have 7 seats that they'll never lose. They'll just never lose 7 seats. They could run, like you always say, a Ziploc bag, a rock, bottle cap, whatever. And
that's the floor. That's it.
7 is the floor.
And it's not a Liberal thing. Every party has these.
Yeah, of course. Stronghold, right? So they have 7 stronghold seats. They'll never lose.
Yeah.
There's 8, I think, empty Senate seats right now that can be filled during a prorogue.
Yeah.
So I expect that those will be filled with Liberal
independent
banister polishers. Yeah. So that'll be good.
Paul Martin once appointed an NDP senator. This happened before.
He was ahead of his time, right? They're the
he
same
was
party
truly
now.
ahead of his time.
The same party
I will talk highly of Paul Martin, as I enjoyed.
Yeah, he's a good PM. So you have that to think about. I watched the speech, the presser today. A couple of fitting moments, I thought. One, when he was walking out to deliver the address, his speech flew off the table, and you could hear him say, about 15 feet from the mic, "It's okay, I'll wing it." It's par for the course. He was late for the presser, pretty standard. And I thought the other signature moment was when a reporter was asking him a question. He put his hand out and told her to stop. He understood what she was saying. That's how he governed in a lot of ways, that he knew what people wanted without listening to what they were saying to him. The thing that struck me the most, though, and it's actually an interesting tie into what you said about the timing for him in terms of when Sophie left him and when he should have stepped down to minimize damage to him reputationally in the party in terms of their, sort of go forward aspirations. After a speech like that, I kind of picture what happens when he walks back into the house, to the cottage. And, months ago, he presumably would have had Sophie there, his children there, maybe a few of his confidants there, cabinet ministers, Telford, Freeland, perhaps. And they would have had a nice, although difficult, a comforting moment. Okay, we've done something here. We've closed the chapter here a little bit. Today, when he went back in the house, who was there to give him that hug? Who was there to shake his hand and be with him? Not his wife, maybe not his kids. I don't know. Freeland, no. He's lost every minister that wasn't in his wedding party, basically, at this point, as well as many others who have decided to jump off the ship. Who's in that house with them in that moment to help him close that chapter and get through it? That's a really human moment.
Miller and LeBlanc are two that comes to mind because they have connections.
That's it.
Seamus or Reagan. Maybe.
There's Seamus is gone,
but he's at least close enough.
Maybe Len, but the point still stands. That's a tough moment to get through, and he had to do it without anybody, and he's got no one to blame for that except himself. It's
trying to humanize this moment, Joey. I was feeling. If people are gonna hate me for this, in a way, as a human being, you look at that as
it is humanizing. But let me give you let me
watch this human being go through this
kind of. But let me drop the guillotine on him now from the more rational point of view. You lead a press conference like that with all the things Canadians are telling you you're wrong about, and how important they are. Indian reconciliation, no one gives a fuck about that. Climate change, no one gives a fuck about that. COVID pandemic, you couldn't have got that any more wrong. There's a couple other things in there I forget. Oh, the cultural diversity thing. Every Canadian hates immigration now, hates Indians. You spent 9 years destroying 50 years of good bi and tripartisan policy in the country. Liberals spent 10 years and destroyed almost all of it. Incredible inertia heading in the wrong direction destroys half a century of good policy in 10 years. Economy in the tank. We refused to use our greatest assets to support the dollar, to support the economy. We villainized entrepreneurship, villainized wealth building, villainized strong families under the guise of, well, we can't have an inheritance tax. It's unfair. Wow, we can't have people starting small businesses. They're cheating taxes. It backwards on every single count. Then you have the Liberal Party itself, full of people who will run for public office and try to, I think, unfairly and, sort of by telling lies through their teeth, distance themselves from the party of the last 9 years and the leadership of the last 9 years and say they never agreed with any of it. Well, you fucking signed it. You clapped along like a zoo seal every day in QP when your colleagues said something that you didn't agree with. That's not leadership. You refused to jump ship until the last possible second, just in case you got a 2-week ministerial appointment. That's not leadership. You're a coward. The Liberal Party should be napalmed. They should fire and remove and vote out every single administrator, campaign organizer, loyalist, MP, you name it. Start from the ground up. Take the L. Take the advice being given to you by the voters and start again. You need a new mission, a new vision, and a new face of the franchise. And
they are going to do that.
They're not going to do that.
The MPs.
The new face of the franchise is going to be somebody who clapped along like a coward for a decade. That's not a new face of the franchise. That is inviting continued failure. They're going to try and do it.
They acknowledge that the MPs that are there acknowledge that the party this has been publicly said, has gone too far to the left.
They clapped along with it.
They did do that.
They didn't leave the party. They kept running
100%.
under the banner. They have no more. They have no.
100%.
There is no solid ground for these people to stand on.
But that's an admission that the direction that it's going, or at least where it stands right now, it needs to change and veer off somewhere else. And so I think now is the starting point where they could say, you know what, enough is enough. Let's go back to where we traditionally were as the Liberal Party and try to capture that middle ground in the Canadian political spectrum. That's if they could steer the ship there and at least align it towards that direction. You may not get there immediately. That's, in my opinion, the right direction for the Liberal Party of Canada.
I think
then you'd have the Liberal Party encompass that part of the political spectrum. The Conservative Party would have to move further right, and NDP would encompass the left. And that's the way it was historically for the past 100 years. And then you wouldn't have this almost obliteration of the Liberal Party. And that's what they're getting to the point. If they
I still think you're wrong. And I'll tell you why. The entire Liberal voter base demands these insane commie policies at the ballot box. They demand stuff like taxing families who have done well for more than a generation. They demand things like taxing entrepreneurs. They demand handouts.
Years thing. Go back 20 years. This is not the case with a Liberal supporter. Granted, a lot of them have moved on.
Yeah.
Some have moved on even to different planes because they no longer exist in this world.
Yeah.
But that is not the way the Liberal Party was just a mere couple of decades, even a little over 10 years ago.
Do you think there's any chance that you can convert someone under 30 who's a Liberal voter right now to be a Liberal voter if they just adopt more conservative policies? Or will they just vote NDP? Like NDP is going to take that corner now at some point, in my opinion.
They should own that.
They should own it. You're right. But the thing is that the Liberal Party has entrenched themselves with this voter base. I'll leave it with this, and maybe we can talk about this for a bit. I am willing to bet that the Liberals don't form government, even at a minority level, for 15 years after this.
So if that's the case, and that's a very interesting point of view, number one, you'd have a historic run by the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
Number two.
And by the way, it's not fueled just by poor liberal policy and politics. It's fueled by this global shift away from that style of government. It's not just here, it's everywhere. And they're going to ride this, I think, for 15 years. Easy. Poilievre is young. He's got a good social media team. He's willing to do long form stuff, it seems, as long as he doesn't do something insane or lose his mind or whatever.
There's a shelf life. And Poilievre will only be there at most for a decade. And that's it for him. And they'll go to the next person. He'll be the next person within the Conservative Party or the next person within another party that will be elected.
Sure.
That's just the reality. So if we're on that, and I'm of the opinion it's going to be minimum of 2 4-year terms.
8 years.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, Mark Carney turned 60 this March.
Happy birthday,
Not
Mark.
an old guy, but not a spring chicken at that as well.
No.
Is he going to want to sit there and sit in opposition? Number one, he's going to, if he does this and becomes the prime minister briefly, only to get trounced in the election. So then has that negative on his record, and then sit in opposition for 8 years. Is he going to want to do that? And then with hopes of becoming a prime minister again?
No.
In 8 years, and I can't see that. If the guy was 50 instead of 60, maybe. Yeah. Well, for sure, I would say for sure.
The other
Father Time's not on his side, and I can't see him being the guy that's going to be there for a long term.
Other underrated bit is that it looks to me like there's younger leadership around the world now. Everyone under 55, 50 years old. Trump is the exception, though he is sort of the father of the nationalist, populist political movement that started in earnest with his election in 2016. So I'll give him a pass. He gets an exception there. But when I look at the Republican Party, young. It's really young. It's young. It's tech. It's entrepreneurship. It's a number of different things. I look at Meloni in Italy. She's pretty young. Germany, AfD, right? The Alternatives for Deutschland Party. Their leadership is young. That woman.
Mexico has a young.
Mexico, Scheinbaum, young.
And we can say what you want about that, but still young. But
Poilievre is probably 45, 46, I think. I don't know how old he is, but he's pretty young.
Macron is still in power in...
Not for long. But
he's not an old dude by any stretch of the
No.
But yeah,
how old is Poilievre? Poilievre's 45. So, you're going to see these things, and Carney is going to be fighting all these battles. Not to mention, he's basically in the two worst Venn diagrams you could be in as a politician right now: central banker, old, and sort of WEF adjacent, globalist thinking, century initiative type stuff.
So you're with me that he's probably not going to be the person.
I don't think he leads the party, but I do think he becomes some kind of advisor.
Okay.
Like a Soros type, I want to say. That's probably too big a hammer, but yeah.
Then. That's for the humor me. So we're both in agreement that he's not going to. So then who? And if we're going to go to the who, it's not going to be somebody that hasn't been. It's not going to be another outsider. It's going to be somebody on the inside. Yeah. And the 6 names I've mentioned, I think it's going to be one of them. Unless I miss somebody or somebody comes out of the blue that just shows up out of nowhere, then it's going to be one of those 6 that's going to do this round and then probably jettison.
I think we both agree that
it's free.
She's the minus money. Yeah, she's minus 200 on the line. Everyone else is plus money. So, she's the one who really comes out here looking like the cleanest dirty shirt. But I still think that's a real wipeout in an election. Right? And I think the other thing too is if you're Freeland, the party needs you more than you need it now, which was not the case a month ago. So I think if you're Freeland, you say to the party and you say to Carney specifically, look, old man, I'm going to take the fucking bullets during this election, but I want 2 cracks at this as the leader. And if you don't give it to me, then you guys can rot. You will rot in irrelevance and tarnish another one of your names and, go through a historically bad election loss without me. But with me, I'll take the bullets. We'll do not so great, but won't be a 7-seat blowout. And then in 8 years or 4 years, whenever, I want another crack at this. I think that's the move. You negotiate two elections if you're Freeland. And Len, honestly, like,
she won't have a second chance. It'll be somebody else that comes in that wants it.
And she's not gonna take this one.
It doesn't matter if she thinks she could have the second chance. She just won't. Yeah. It'll be a leadership review, and then she'll get her association with the Trudeau Liberal brand, and her being the finance minister at a time when the debt spiked. That's going to be used as a crutch against her, and then that's going to be. It's hard to have that type. I don't want to say baggage, but it kind of is in a way.
It is baggage, yeah. It is baggage.
And then be able to be successful into a future career to become prime minister. It's not going to be possible. So I think she's going to win this one.
Do you think she wants it?
If she's going to put her name forth, yes, she wants it. She's not going to be forced to do it.
Couldn't she be a Liberal premier somewhere for 8 years? And then say, look, couldn't she be a Liberal premier somewhere for 8 years? And then say, look, province? Oh, fuck, I don't know.
She's Alberta. She was born there, I think. So no Liberal's going to win there. Ontario, they just elected a new Ontario leader. No. So she's going to be an outsider.
She needs something that she can call her own before she can become the leader. The prime minister, I should say.
She's for all due respect, there's no future for her to be.
So let me ask you this then. Maybe another good question here. Is the next Liberal prime minister a known entity right now?
No. That's what I'm trying to get to, is that it will be somebody from the outside that will come in, a la Mark Carney, Ignatieff, I was going to say. None of these two have been raging successes, but it's going to be something like that. Almost even Trudeau in a way, right? Like he came out of nowhere to be elected as a backbencher and then became the leader of the party and then eventually prime minister. Something like that in a way. That's what you'll need. That's what they will get. I just can't see what they have internally right now. They're going to be 20 seats at best. Next election,
maximum 20. Yeah, I would say.
And who's going to be those 20 seats? Like Judy Scrow, she's going to be gone in
I don't even know what Judy Scrow is. Len's getting into the weeds now, and like Liberal.
Well, like those are the ones that for sure they're going to win.
Yeah,
right? Like it's just like I don't know. it's just going to be tough, but not them too. The NDP are screwed as well. Like you just can't just solely focus. That the NDP, they're going to get rid of Jagmeet Singh because they're. What's going to happen next election? They're obviously not going to do very well, and then they don't have the money and so forth. So they're going to leadership review and then get rid of him and then get somebody. They're not going to really change much of the party, though. Their direction is going to remain the same.
No, the policy is going to be identical. Yeah, right? It's already stamped.
That's the way it should be for them because that's their bread and butter. Why change something which may not have worked in the past, but
it never works. Why change it? Why change it? Why fix it if it's broke?
Yeah. The Liberal Party,
NDP lawn side.
they should, if the Liberal Party can somehow, and Jody Raybo Wilson, I
see that in the chat. I don't know, man.
Did they mention in the chat?
Yeah,
they did. Yeah,
rumors bringing it up. There's been other people talking about that.
I think that she'd sit on the sidelines, let this thing play out, and then come in as the white knight in shining armor and say, "Look, I'm here to save you all," and I'll be like, "Yeah, all right, great." She stood up to people that ended her political career.
Stood up to Trudeau, yeah.
She's a woman, like she obviously being a woman.
Important. Hey, listen, I'm pro woman prime minister if they run on something besides what's between their legs, and Wilson Raybould will 100% do that. And there's nothing wrong with women voting for another woman if that woman is competent. And we see this over and over
fair.
again. Like in the States, like they run Kamala Harris, she's incompetent and she loses. The women don't vote for her at the clip they need. That's what you want to see. But I gotta be honest, man. Like if I had to pick between Jody Wilson-Raybould and Pierre Poilievre, like I probably take JWB in a second
depending
election.
on what the policies are.
If she comes in
and it's more of a
but in a vacuum, like do I think she's more competent than Pierre? Like, yeah, Pierre's a TikTok guy. And like, listen, that's what it takes to win right now. But am I sure about this guy? In fact, I'm positive that he's not going to fix almost anything. But that's like any politician at this point. Wilson-Raybould at least has a track record, like you mentioned, of standing up to the machine, even if it costs her job.
Remember one time the Liberal Party, they stood firm and they didn't send troops to Iraq.
Yeah.
That was a big fucking thing.
Yeah.
And you got to give props to Chrétien for that.
Do you remember Chrétien standing next to Bush after Bush forgot to mention him in his list of countries who were helping? Mm-hmm. I never thought I'd have to mention Canada like a brother. Chrétien's just standing there with his crooked stroke smile, and he's just like, fuck this guy. I love Chrétien was the best. Where is the strong liberal politician? That's what we need. We need the liberals. Like the liberals are like the Knicks, like even if I'm not a Knicks fan, basketball is better when the Knicks are good and competent. And like Canadian politics is better when the liberals are good and competent, like they need Patrick Ewing. They need Larry Johnson. They need give me a competent liberal team and we'll have a better league. It'll be more fun. Politics will be more engaging. Right now, it's like, yeah, I'm just like waiting here for the other shoe to drop. Joey, I already know what the result's going to be.
I watched recently. I'm really boring. I watched a debate from the 2000 election with Chrétien was there, and
that's Chrétien.
There's a bunch of I forget.
God, who was leading the federal Conservatives there? Was it Stockwell Day? Stockwell Day is Ontario Conservatives.
Yes, I think it was Stockwell. They had Joe Clark was there as for the PC.
Okay.
And Gilles Duceppe, what they were debating on at one point. Remember, this is 2000.
Len, we're somehow gaining viewers right now, by the way. So although this may seem boring, people seem to be enjoying it. So go ahead.
But I just want to put this in the context. The year is 2000. So remember how much the Canadian dollar was worth at that time.
Almost parity, right?
But in terms of like what you could purchase and
sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They were talking about in the debate what to do with the surplus of $160 billion. Right. So the time, very different.
Yeah.
Right. They were paying, you can say what you want about paying off the debt being stupid or whatever, but they were actively paying off the debt and they had a huge surplus. Time were different, right? Like, they just had the fall or shortly after the fall of the Soviet Union, new markets opened up. And so it was just maybe the perfect storm, but still they were able to generate a huge surplus for a few years. And they were using that for what? So the question was, what should you do with this $160 billion? That's the environment that they were operating in. That was a centralist liberal party.
Yeah.
Just a different time. I don't think. And what are we at now in terms of our debt? It's around $2 trillion.
We just overspent this budget by 60, right? From the
and now you take away the added revenue that could have been generated from this. Yeah. So that's gone, and that was several billion. I forget the exact number. So all this shit keeps adding up, and then it just increases the size of this deficit, and then throw that onto the debt. Like it's a different time. Like I said. Paul Martin, I don't want to talk violently about that time, but he, at the time, he even appointed an enemy, so to speak, an NDP senator into the Senate. He did the Gomery inquiry openly in a way that it ultimately caused him his downfall.
I forgot about that.
How many people try to brush the shit off and hide it under the rug and say, we're not going to, he decided we're going to do this openly, and it hurt him in the end. But what a different time it was, and what a different breed of politicians those people were.
Totally different.
So I look at that as I kind of wish the Liberal Party goes back to that. That'd be, and then the Conservative could kind of go further right, and you have vote where you want and go nuts.
Did you know Paul Martin had polio when he was a kid?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
You know what he did? One shady thing. He registered his shipping company to Panama, I believe it was.
Nice. He was ahead of his time again, like Panama Papers, right? Fuck, that guy was a pioneer. I know he's only 86. He's only 86. Can we get this guy back on? Like, no. Come on. He's only 6 years older than Trump. Does he have his faculties? Where's the Martin Chrétien ticket? Where's the Martin Chrétien podcast? Like, I'd be listening to that.
Those two, they did not like each other.
Who cares? That's good content. No, we don't like each other. No one knows that. Me and Leonard, mortal enemies.
So Paul Martin, like he was senior, was just denied his chance to become prime minister many times. And when Paul Martin Jr. became prime minister, and when he was sworn in, he was holding the flag that draped over the casket of his father as a symbol of wow. Like we finally did it as a family. Finally
did it together. Yeah. That is gangster. That was 95 to 05, maybe 90 to 05 era in federal Canadian politics that's the golden era. That is the golden era of Canadian politics.
The end of Mulroney was just awful. He lost so much support so quickly. GST hurt him hard. And then the guy, I don't want to talk ill of the dead, but you know what? Just when he was just about to leave, to leave prime minister and hand over the reins to whoever won it, in that case it was Kim Campbell, he went to Europe and did a farewell tour over there. And
right on.
Who paid for that? Right? Like, why do that?
Our parents.
Fucking brutal. Fucking brutal. If it's in a Bitcoin standard, this kind of stuff would be so hard to do.
It's on the ledger. Where did this Bitcoin go? This wallet's registered to
you sent it to Ukraine to do what?
Vietnamese strip club. Where did this go? Anyway.
Okay, let's talk about some stories here. Other stories. I guess we got some time. This one, you saw this story because it's how you commented on Twitter, but I just want to bring it up. It's just a beauty of a story. It was from December 18th in Hamilton. So it's a little bit dated, but it deals with a robbery that took place at BMO, the Bank of Montreal. And it was located at 375 Upper Paradise Road for people who are taking notes at home. So the thief came by, rode his bike to the branch, and he decided to park his bike outside and stroll on in. And he handed over a note to the teller to say, look, I'm robbing a place. My intentions are to take money. Something happened. I don't want to get into it. He left the place without anything. So he left empty-handed. He was terrible at trying to steal money from the bank. But he's even worse at securing his bike, I think, because when he went outside, the bike that he would hope to take away and to ride home was, in fact, stolen. So you had the guy that wanted to steal money from the bank, took his bike to the bank, left the bike there, came back outside in the fucking bank. So the bike was stolen from the bank. They say that the suspect the bike thief is male, wearing all black and driving around town on a stolen bike. So if you happen to see this guy, please report him to the police because this thief would love to get his hands on a stolen bike. What a fucking joke.
It's an all-time story. I'm going to pull up the article here just so people can get a visual of this guy. This is just an unbelievable fucking a tale of perseverance and it's just great. Hold on, I gotta find my bullet here.
This guy, so I'll give you some.
Okay, first of all, let's talk about the bank robber. Okay, this guy shows up. He's dressed like a Pokemon gym leader. Okay, this is not the gear you wear to rob a bank. Okay, this is what you wear when you're trying to defend the Viridian City gym badge. This is not good for running. It's not good for holding money. It's not good for
riding a bike though. It was cold.
It's not good for riding a bike either. Look at all the stuff that gets stuck in your chain here. Look at this. Like what? This is a nightmare. People you can't ride your bike like this. No chance.
Well, they say he's male, white, 5'4" to 5'8" in height, wearing a long multicolored scarf, black sunglasses, blue surgical mask, black jacket with fur trim, black gloves, dark pants, white shoes, and bikeless. That's what he is.
He looks like Joseph from the Technicolor Dreamcoat. I love this story. Westcliff Mall is on Upper Paradise. You know where it is, Len? If you it's by the top of the Shit Oak stairs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You can basically you could it's like, 1,000 yards away from the top of the Shit Oak stairs. So,
okay. I'm gonna push this in Google to see it.
And so this mall, I used to go to that beer store sometimes, and I always went to that Home Hardware to get stuff when I was like taking care of my first house, which is not too far from there. I won't tell you where, but not too far from there.
Yeah, it's not too far from the Trudeau golf
That's
course.
right.
That's pretty funny.
That's right. So that mall is visited by a lot of seniors. There's like a retirement home nearby and a lot of families. There's a school right across the street, Regina Mundi. I used to ride my bike through there to get to work, actually, as well. And that story reminds me of some of the stuff I used to see out in front of that mall. I've not seen hobos fight each other more than probably 5 or 6 times in my life. And I've been to the bar a lot. Hess Village is like famous for having hobo fights. But I've seen hobos fight each other in front of that Westcliff Mall KFC, in front of the Gino's Pizza, in front of the Shoppers Drug Mart. It's actually not Shoppers, it's Rexall. Must have been 3 times in the 6 years I lived up there. And it's like that kind of thing is indicative of the kind of clientele that are starting to arrive. The weird thing to me is that BMO has got to be one of the smaller ones in the city. There's really not much going on in that plaza. So I don't know why the guy decided that was the one to rob. And also, what do we always say on the show? Does the bank have your money, Len? No, they don't have your money. They have no money there. The bank has nothing for you to take.
They give them IOUs.
You know, like, come on.
Come back next week.
People in the chat, does Joey have an alibi? And another guy, so Joey rides a bike too. Interesting. Yeah, it could be me. I am about 5'8" or 5'9".
They should ask him, like, as he's driving the bank, what do you intend to use the money? Because if it's over 10K, it's going to be reported,
you got to report it. Yeah, you got to report it.
What do you intend to use the money for?
Can I tell you the second bank story here? I went to the bank on New Year's Eve to deposit some money I got for Christmas, and my debit card didn't work. My dog has chewed up my debit card, so I needed a new card. And so I go to the bank and I try to make the deposit at the ATM. I can't do it, so I end up going to the teller and I say, "Yeah, I got this debit card. It doesn't work in the ATM. I need a new one." She goes, "Okay, no problem. Do you have any ID?" I said, "Yeah, I got some ID." So I show her my driver's license, and then she says to me, "Okay, sit down. Do you have your phone?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Okay, we just have to make sure it's you. So we're gonna send you a message." I'm like flabbergasted. Like, I just showed you my ID. So it doesn't matter if you're at the bank or not. You have to get the text message from the teller to make sure it's you, even after you show her your ID. I know I already told you this story, but I'm saying it for the people who are listening to the show. Like, the bank is so far behind. It's almost unbelievable. There's no catching up at this point. They think the tortoise and the hare is real. It's not. The tortoise loses in the race like 99% of the time. And right now you are carrying the biggest shell the world has ever seen. And that rabbit's getting the fuck away from you in a hurry. Banking, traditional banking.
I got a beauty of a story that will finish this one off.
Sure.
City of Ottawa, they've recently implemented some stricter regulations on vehicles that are idling, and this effectively limits
I saw this, yeah.
Yeah, the amount of drivers, the time that drivers can leave their engines running while the vehicle is stationary. So the new bylaw came into effect. It's reducing idling times, and there's 3 different tiers here. If the temperature is between 0 and 27 Celsius, it's 3 minutes per hour that you could idle your car, 3 minutes per hour. And if it's below 0 or above 27, then it's 10 minutes per hour that you keep it. Or it's unoccupied, it's 1 minute regardless of the temperature. So it can be minus a million out there. You only have 1 fucking minute, 60 seconds to warm up that fucking car. They say this is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and improve air quality. And the bylaw officers will be enforcing this on a complaint basis. Love it. Ottawa is notoriously cold in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And so if you have those remote starters, you're only going to be able to keep it on for 1 minute. Now, keep in mind, it's going to be a point in time, I suspect, that car manufacturers are going to put this.
They'll bake it in.
May do.
Totally
so you press it, and it's after a minute, it's going to turn off by, we can press it again. Why?
How is this a priority for a municipal government? I cannot believe this. This is amazing. You have people warming up their cars to go to work. I saw some of the comments on the story and on some tweets that were talking about this, and people are making the case that, I'm a trades guy. I like to warm the car up while I bring my tools in, or put my tools in the car, bring them in from the garage. I like to warm my car up and then, go get my kid dressed for school, stuff like that. Right now, you can't warm your car up. It doesn't fix any problem. The only saving grace is that
There's a lot of
Maybe.
car theft that people want.
I guess, but like
The old style cars that you leave the key in there, then a thief comes by, steals the car.
Yeah, like that's the other thing. When I warm my car up, my key doesn't go in the car; it stays with me. It comes back in the house, right? Now,
See,
Toronto police would tell me to just give it up anyway.
You're one of the privileged few. Mine is of the vintage. I have to put the key in there, turn it, and leave
my
the key.
It's not even new. It's like a 2015. I'm pretty sure it's fucking old,
compared to mine.
Yeah,
right.
But like the whole point is that this is again like misplaced priorities by governments that have much bigger fish to fry, and you used to be able to get away with this stuff. These sort of like, cottage hobby shop type legislation or bylaw changes. But now everyone can see the problems are front and center. You walk by another drug addicted guy and there's the bylaw guy, there's a chance here, Len, that a Toronto or Ottawa bylaw officer may walk past the guy using drugs in the open to ticket you for warming up your car. How's that? Like when are we going to get that TikTok video? I can't wait. I think that's going to be an absolute banger, an absolute creamer. I don't know if you guys ever watched that guy on Instagram who just hammers pints in the UK. It's going to be an absolute creamer. It's just like clown world, man. Like what else can you say?
Yeah. But
it's hard to call it anything else. Like what you already don't have enough enforcement probably in a city like Ottawa. And now this is what you're going to spend the man hours on, complaints from people. How are you supposed to verify that the car's been warming up for more than 10 minutes? Wait around.
Well, it's fuck.
What if I turn it off for 5 minutes? What if I turn it off and then turn it back on?
It's 1 minute if it's unoccupied. That's easy to do if you're an officer. You just stand there for a minute, nobody showed up. 1 minute and 1 second, boom, done. And it takes zero time, like minute and 1 second to determine.
True, so, I guess, yeah. But I do like it's complaint based, so you can at least tell if your neighbors are stupid or not.
Well, one thing this is going off on a tangent here. I've always was on the belief that you don't want to leave your car idling for too long, because what happens then, the gas will wash away the oil on the cylinder walls as it's just idling. You actually want to let it sit there for like a minute or two, then drive it slowly to get the operating temperature up slowly. Don't let it idle for 10 minutes on end. That's actually wrong. It's bad in the long run for the longevity of the engine. This is somebody that drives a car that's 23 years old.
Is that still the case even with like modern fuel injection though?
My car is direct injected, but it's diesel, so it is kind of a lubricant in a way. But still, you don't want that mixing with the oil. Either way, like that's old school thinking. I don't know if that's still relevant these days. But
Paulie in the chat saying it's idling an engine is the worst thing you can do to it. I'm literally an engine mechanic. Okay, thanks, Paulie.
There you go. So it's still
appreciate you, buddy. Yeah,
yeah. So that's what I always learned is like. And I do this, and I leave my car, if I can, even in cold days, I let it sit there for 10, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. Then I slowly drive away and just really slow and try to bring up the operating temperature like that. The way I was always told that's the way to do it. And 23 years, you know what, I'll say this. My car's 23 years old. The last 100K on my car, it's been the best mileage I've ever gotten. The car's finally broken in. Yeah, for whatever reason, the motor, everything else is going to it, but the motor's finally broken in. This is wonderful. So I can enjoy the next 500,000 kilometers, a maximum efficiency.
Oh, fuck. I love it.
I have to double clutch in some cases because when it's too cold, it's tough to drive these days, but I could do it. That's why thieves can't steal my car. You can't drive it.
Thank you for listening to the Canadian Automotive Excellence Podcast. Man, what a day, what a week. Hot start to the year. Stay with us, friends and enemies. We got some fun stuff planned for 2025. I guess that's it. We'll see you Wednesday. No live show, but a release. And then Monday again for another banger. Till then, take care of yourselves.
Take care and don't be a cuck. And stop idling.